Hi there. It's Emil. It's Emil Guillermo. Emil Amok to you. How are you? Happy post inaugural. Boy, they went all day yesterday, Martin Luther King Day. I almost forgot to pay some respects to Dr. King. I stuck some little tiny moments. They did a few things on that day during the inaugural. They had an HBCU band, and they had that reverend at the speech, sort of doing a karaoke. I have a dream, or free at last. But how you feeling? I mean, if you're an Asian American, there's one thing out of yesterday that ought to rile you, and that is Donald Trump making good on his effort to reverse birthright citizenship. Now, a lot of people don't know that, but that's an Asian American thing. That was started because of an Asian American, specifically one from San Francisco, Wong Kim Ark, who back in the 1890s went back to China. He was born here. His parents went back to China. He went on vacation to visit them, tried to re-enter, and they stopped him because this was the era of the Chinese Exclusion Act. So here's the thing about Donald Trump. If he has regressive immigration politics, we used to say, or I used to say, he's going back to 1924, the year of the most racist, regressive immigration policy in American history, the 1924 Immigration Act. They put quotas of 0 on Asian Americans, right? That's why we didn't have an Asian America here, 1924. But no, by reversing the 14th Amendment that makes birthright citizenship the law of the land, he's going back to the 1890s. He's going back to the Chinese Exclusion Act. And that is about as regressively racist as you can get. So that's kind of the Asian American take. The 14th Amendment, birthright citizenship, has held ever since that Wong Kim Ark decision at the Supreme Court level, ever since the 1890s. It was clear that if you were born in America to parents from a foreign land who weren't citizens, but as long as you were born in America, you had birthright citizenship. It's called soli juris, I believe. It's in English. It's an English common law principle adopted by the colonies and then adopted by the United States. And it's in the Constitution. It was challenged and it was upheld. It was upheld, and Wong Kim Ark, an Asian American, was the test case. Now, that's a key thing. That's a key thing. And if you see Asian Americans out there talking about birthright citizenship and preserving the 14th Amendment, that's why. Because it's a direct attack on an Asian American, not an Asian American born here in San Francisco's Chinatown, Wong Kim Ark. It's a direct attack on him and a direct attack on what it means to be an American. You don't have to be white. You don't have to be any color. You don't have to be any race or creed. You just have to be born in America. That was the law. And Donald Trump wants to do away with it. This is not the first time that I've had to deal with this. I mean, I've been writing about Asian American issues since 1995. On Asian Week, I dealt with it a number of times. It usually happened when right-wingers wanted to do away with things like, English as the official language. We've gone beyond English as official language. Now, they've always raised birthright citizenship. They never got away with it. And now the difference is Donald Trump. And this is red meat to the MAGA base. And now we have 18 states attorneys general coming up and saying, no, you're not going to get away with this. And you can't get away with it anyway, because if you got to amend the Constitution, you need some kind of constitutional convention. So everything that Donald Trump did in regards to this was unconstitutional, which was funny because he started out so nicely trying to uphold the peaceful transfer of power, which is a hallmark of our Constitution. And then let's rip up the Constitution when it comes to the 14th Amendment. Now, I'm going to talk about other things like the inaugural and what I saw, because what I saw on television, because I wasn't going to go there. I mean, I've been to 2 inaugurals, but I didn't want to go and freeze for Donald Trump. He moved it indoors. But I want to bring in my friend, College of Ethnic Studies, Asian American Studies professor, San Francisco State University, Professor Emeritus, Daniel Phil Gonzalez, because he's a guy who could talk about Wong Kim Ark. He could talk about the 14th Amendment. He's a JD. He knows this stuff. He knows the legal stuff. So, Dan, welcome to the program. Hi.
Hi.
Hey, so
it's a different day. It's a Tuesday. It's not a Friday, but here we are, and thanks for having me.
Well, I thought that your unique perspective as an Asian American historian plus a JD could help explain this whole concept of the 14th Amendment. First of all, the 14th Amendment clearly states if you were born here in America, you're a citizen, right?
Yeah, it's one of the first clauses of the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment contains several different clauses, but the 3 most important ones are 1, birthright citizenship, 2, equal protection under the law, and due process being applied to the states. Those 2 elements, equal protection and birthright citizenship, were both elements of the Wong Kim Ark decision. I think it's ironic that it was an Asian American during the Asian exclusion, right?
Yeah.
That worsened. It worsened. The previous form of Asian exclusion was specifically anti-Chinese, right? In 1882, that was extended to everybody. Well, not all, but others than Chinese. And if they ever left the country in 1888, it was determined that they couldn't come back in.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well,
they also were denied by treaty with China that they could never become citizens.
Yeah,
So,
well, I mean, the key thing though is the Chinese back then are like the Mexicans and the Latinos now. I mean, now everything seems focused Latino, but back then in the 1890s, the Chinese Exclusion Act, they wanted to make sure Asia was shut out.
Well, yes. And then that happened again, right? In the wartime era. And then it was also visited upon Filipinos.
Right.
So the 2 groups that were offered, in the instance of the Mexicans, they were forced out, and they were forced out twice, right? Pre-World War II, and then they needed the labor because in agriculture, so they had the Bracero program.
Yeah, but going back to the 1880s, I mean, the first targets of anti-immigrant fervor were really Asians, not the Mexicans.
Yes, they were. 1882 to Chinese. Yes,
it's just the historical fact that the Mexicans didn't become a threat.
Yeah, but it happens again and again. So
right.
Even though the exclusion doesn't happen against Asians generally, that didn't happen until 1924, and Filipinos were exempted from that only because the Philippines was a territorial protectorate of the United States, so they couldn't be
colony. Essentially,
Filipinos couldn't be excluded, but they had very limited presence and very limited rights, if you can call them that, and they were denied privileges while they were in the United States. So, my father was one of those immigrants.
Yeah, and
yours
mine
was too.
as
Your
well.
father was one of those immigrants too.
Yeah, American. They were American. They were called American nationals.
So
anyway, so the Wong Kim Ark decision, it was the Wong Kim Ark upheld the 14th Amendment. Those people who wanted to take away birthright citizenship, well, the Constitution was upheld. He was allowed to come in, and that law has stood since the 1890s, which is I think that's kind of amazing.
Which was post-Plessy, by the way.
Yeah,
it was post-Plessy. So you have to put all of this in context, right? Not only were Asians excluded, they were going to be excluded more
Mhm.
specifically, right? In later legislation, for example, keeping Japanese
Right.
from owning land, that was exclusive against Japanese. And then it moved towards the country moved towards the Congress moved towards 1924. Now, in between, of course, all
Yeah.
kinds of other things happened. Specific attitudes against, believe it or not, Koreans in small numbers, but
Right.
also South Asians. It
Yeah.
was anti-Indian. It was anti, and they called them. It was
Yeah. Yeah. I
anti-Hindu.
mean, this is
You
an
know, so
interesting thing because when people get in, I mean, they hear the 14th Amendment issue come up, birthright citizenship, you go deeper into it and you see the racist tendencies of America really come out and the evolution of that and how it begins with Asians in 1898. And but as you point out,
right, right,
and this is I mean, you said it that it came at the same time as 1898 Plessy versus Ferguson, which was the separate 18,
1896.
okay,
Plessy was
pardon me,
1896.
1896, and Plessy was the separate but equal clause, which meant the the uh,
Yes,
the
yes,
adoption of segregation as the law. They could you can discriminate and segregate, and that would
yeah.
was legal.
You can say this water fountain is for blacks. This water fountain is for whites. This bathroom, you could whites can go here, blacks cannot. That was also visited
Yeah,
against other people of color. Okay, other people of color would come up to the signs and say, "Well, I'm not black, but you know, uh, I'm not white, so I guess I got to use the black facility, right?" And uh, Japanese Americans who were uh, and got into the military, the U.S. military during World War II, that were getting basic training in the South. They saw those signs, and several of them said, "Well, I'm going to use the black facility," and they were told then, "Oh no, that's okay. You know, you're kind of honorary white at the time." And this is a story that the great Senator Daniel Inouye would talk about. He's departed a few years ago.
yeah,
He died a few years ago, but yeah, it was one of his better stories, and it was something that was commonly stated by not only Japanese Americans
yeah.
but other Asians
This
as
is
well.
just another example of how racial identity is a key to understanding birthright citizenship because it wasn't a matter of what your race was. That if you were just born in America, you were a citizen. That gave you the birthright.
That's
Just
it.
being in the land.
That's it. And so, in order, yeah, well, housing. Okay, so now he comes up with this grand scheme, and just by executive order, he says that's over. And so far, what I've seen simply says uh, people who are new, right, new arrivals, and haven't been established, but they have to have at least one parent who is at least a permanent resident for any children born of that family to become birthright citizens. Okay, that's it. So one parent at least has to be a legal permanent resident, right? And so that's supposed to make people who are permanent residents on both sides and that are all documented. It's supposed to make them
Well,
feel
does it?
secure, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, how are they going to know? Are you going to feel secure?
Well,
How are you going to
I heard
know?
Tom
Right? One of
Homan.
the
I
first
heard
things
Tom Homan
that's
say
asked.
today that he's the quote unquote border czar, which is his official title. But he
Yeah, that's
said
right.
that if you happen to be legal and you're with an undocumented person, they're going to take
Undocumented
both of
person.
you and
Yeah,
you're going to be detained until they sort it out. So it's
that's
not
right.
like it's
That's
they're going
right.
to say, oh, you're legal because you were born here. Prove it. You're going to have to go through that kind of harassment and chaos, right? Because like, where are they going to house them? How much is it going to cost? How are you going to go in and round these people up?
They have plans. They have plans for
Yeah,
tent cities,
yeah,
right? Sound familiar? During family separation, that's what they did. So they have plans for that. They have plans to force Mexico to detain people and not let them cross the border. I think is a feasible plan, and a lot of this stuff. So
Right.
When
Yeah.
when Mr. Trump was distancing himself from that project, suddenly he's gone beyond the project. Okay, when
Yeah. Yeah.
when he said he was only going to, on a case by case basis, right,
Yeah.
pardon January 6th convicts, he did it on a gross level,
Yeah.
1,500 people. How do you do
Well,
that, right?
all
And
right,
there's
we'll
people
get to
within his
that.
own party.
We'll
We're gonna
get to
get to
that.
that.
But
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
but
I'm
let's
so
just yeah.
excited about the prospect of having some of these guys return to my neighborhood. You know what I mean?
Well, this is a fear, but let's just finish off on the immigration thing, because it seems like it was all intended to create um to end the chaos on the border, but now you may have more chaos on the border, and whereas you had no chaos within the United
Oh,
States, now you have chaos within. You have chaos
yeah.
everywhere.
Well, they said there were a couple of other things you got to keep in consideration too, all aimed at immigrants, right? And that is, we're going
Yeah,
to raid again. We're going to start
yeah,
scooping people up, but our intent is to just get rid of the criminals, right?
right,
And
right.
everybody's going to be in favor of that. That's the thing. Even immigrants themselves are going to say, "Yeah,
They have,
we got to get
and what
we got to get
yeah,
all of
and
the
what I've been
13th and
saying.
all these people in LA and in Phoenix, we got to get, in Nogales, we got to get rid of these people, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and what they were saying
Chicago,
was they said Chicago first, and then later they said,
yeah,
"Oh no, we're not going to tip our hand." And now they've included all the sanctuary cities on a broad list, so you don't know where,
that's right,
which is
that's right.
smarter, but it expands the terror. And it's like I said, the
Yep,
metaphor for this administration, this new administration, is this. It's like the LA wildfires. The embers are there. Trump is the Santa Ana winds, and wherever he blows, there's going to be a fire, and people are going to have to put it out. They're going to have to learn how
I
to
like
put
the
it out.
metaphor. I like
They're
because
going to
he
have to learn to put
blows.
it out
He's
or fight
definitely
it.
blows.
Yeah. Well, he's a blower. He's definitely a blower. So
He's a blower.
so
He's a big time
so
blower.
14th Amendment. You have all these attorneys generals saying, "Hey, we're going to stop this or fight this," and scholars say that, well, it's
Yeah,
what Trump wants to do is going to lose. But what do you say about the idea that? What do you say to the idea that? I read this where Trump said he's redefining what who is protected, so that if you are, um, if you come as an undocumented or you come with undocumented parents, you said that it's like you have to have at least one parent who is a green card holder or a permanent resident.
yeah, yeah.
Can
That's
they
what I just
can
said.
they do that to the Constitution? Change that definition?
No, no, because it says outright, if you're born here, you're a citizen. Okay,
Yeah.
so they can't qualify it without a constitutional amendment. It takes an amendment to fix an amendment. Okay, when alcoholic beverages were declared unconstitutional under Amendment 18, right?
Mm,
The only way, okay, what happened was that fed organized crime, right? Because it drove the manufacturing, sale, and consumption of alcohol underground, right? And
mm,
and so it
yeah.
became big industry, big money for organized crime. So 10 years later, they had to undo the prohibition against alcoholic beverages, and it took an amendment to the Constitution to do that. So it's going to take an amendment to the Constitution to get rid of birthright citizenship. And that's
Yes.
why you mentioned earlier that they at least have to have a convention. They have to have more than a
Constitution.
convention. They have to have a constitutional convention. It has to pass both houses by 2/3. Yeah. And then it
Yeah.
has to go 3/4 of the states.
Right. Prohibition is a good example. Right. 23rd. Right. 23rd Amendment or
No, 18th.
21st.
18th.
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 What was the 21st? No. I think. All right.
I've forgotten offhand.
I went to one. I used to go to one bar. I thought it was called the 21st Amendment because that's when Prohibition ended. But maybe
Well,
I'm wrong.
that's when it ended. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's when it
Yeah.
ended. Yes. Well, yeah. I thought you meant when did it start? And I said it
Oh
was
no,
the
no, no.
18th.
Yeah, 18th. Well, yeah, it was. I either went to the 21st or the 23rd. I know those of you who walk to the Giants ballpark know which one, what bar I'm talking about. Anyway, so Dan,
Yes, sir.
so it's going to be a protracted fight. People still have to worry because these raids are going to go on. I mean, whether or not
Yeah, yeah.
they change the 14th Amendment or not, or birthright citizenship, that's one thing, but they still have set this idea that there's an emergency on the border, so they're going to do these raids. People still have to worry because whether you're Latino, whether you're from Mexico, whether you're from, I mean, if you're from the Philippines, or India, if you're an
Yeah,
overstay, you
yeah.
got to,
The last time this happened, man, in the 90s, the last time this happened, Filipinos were all saying, well, they're not coming
yeah,
for us.
yeah,
Until the sweeps went through Silicon Valley. When they started out doing just the chicken
yeah,
farms, right? In Petaluma, everybody's saying, well, okay, that's cool. And a lot of those people were actually legal permanent residents, okay? Then they started doing Electronicsville, Silicon
yeah,
Valley, and some Filipinos got rounded up in that, and they were citizens. They were American citizens. They were shipped down to
yeah.
Arizona, right? And they were put on buses headed for Mexico, and the whole while, trying to get in contact with their lawyers, to make sure that they didn't get thrown out. Now, I don't know if people actually were deported into Mexico, and then what kind of hard time they had trying to get
Yeah.
back in. But I was laughing my butt off. You know why? Because there were so many Filipinos said they ain't coming after us. That ain't about us. That's about the damn other people.
And
I
they
said,
did.
dude,
And,
you're brown and got a Spanish last name.
well,
What do
that's
you
the
think?
thing. If you're brown with a Spanish last name, and you say, "Hey, I'm not Mexican. I'm Filipino."
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
okay. Prove that in court.
No
Yeah,
entiendo.
prove that in court. Prove that in court.
No entiendo
All right. So
inglés.
we have a long,
You better with no freaking accent, idiot.
right. No, well, we got this long journey ahead, this protracted legal battle on the 14th Amendment. We still have the deportations. I haven't heard anything like, Homan made it sound like, well, we're just going to work. We couldn't do it before. Now we're doing it. Thank goodness, but he didn't make it sound like it was going to be a mass raid. But the conflict comes up when you have the sanctuary cities. I mean, when you have the sanctuary cities, that law really says, hey, we're not going to help. If you're, Californian law enforcement officer, public safety officer in a local, jurisdiction or a state jurisdiction that has sanctuary laws, stay in your lane, right? Stay in your lane.
Well, okay, but there's different attitudes in different places, different
I
counties.
know. That's I don't know how
in favor. Some counties are saying, "Come on in." Sheriffs are saying, "I'm gonna obey the federal policy in this instance, and we're going after the criminals in our neighborhood."
Yeah.
And that's what we're gonna do. So
and the
don't think
criminals.
that sanctuary status is going to stop.
Well, or sanctuaries.
It's sanctuary a valid protective advice. I mean, valid in the practical sense. It's a valid legal device, but it is not a valid practical device.
Meaning
People
the
can
people
still come and get
in,
you. That's my point.
They'll drag you away. Yeah. Okay. All right. So here's the thing: they're coming after people who have violated immigration law, which is immigration law, not necessarily criminal law, but they see them as criminals. They've criminalized immigration law, and
They have
once
criminalized.
they what?
They have criminalized it.
Yeah, they've criminalized it, but they have the immigration judges are different than criminal law judges, and everyone who comes up or who gets held has to go before an immigration judge. They don't have enough of them. They're going to have to, there's going to, you think it's hard enough with a backlog for legal immigration now you have this other line forming for people who've been rounded up. I don't know, are they on the diamond lane to justice, or are they going to be
you know what they're going to do? They're going to bypass that. They're going to try and bypass that. They're going to try and shrink. They're going to try and shrink due process to nothing. Okay. And Congress has that capacity. Listen to me. Congress has that capacity. It's called a plenary power. They can decide that something that they don't like about an immigrant as an individual or a group, right, it makes them unworthy of entry into the United States, and then you therefore can say it makes them worthy of deportation. Two
Right.
groups have been subject to one involuntary deportation and the other voluntary deportation. One was Mexicans, the other one was Filipinos.
Yeah.
The
And
Filipino
if
one didn't work. Only about 5% of the population of Filipinos at the time, which was in the mid 1930s, right, ever
mm,
took advantage of that offer. They said
that's
free ride back to the Philippines.
yeah, yeah. Well, and so and for those of us who just happen to be hanging out with people who are undocumented, we get rounded up, and we would just
That's it.
bear the we can bear the brunt of the wrath of Trump, and have to. It's an inconvenience.
Well, at the very least, you got to get you a lawyer.
Yeah,
You got the
yeah.
money.
Well, I
You
mean,
better
yeah,
hope there's a lot of pro bono lawyers that are willing to stand. There are right now. There are a bunch of
yeah.
people that are lined up to take on these cases as defense.
Well,
And I know some retired young lawyers. I hope they still have their licenses, but they're
yeah.
younger than me, and I hope they still have their legal licenses
Well, that's the thing.
so they can practice. But
They've created
I'm assistance. I'm going to help.
Yeah, they've created almost like a full employment act for newly retired or recently retired lawyers
Yeah, but
because
we're gonna have to do a lot of the work pro bono. I've done it before. I did it
oh sure,
I did it for pay for some attorneys, but in some cases I went completely pro bono. I just didn't charge.
yeah. Well, it's gonna be
I
a
was I
burden.
was hired by some attorneys.
Yeah,
Oh
it's
yeah,
gonna
it's
yeah
going to be difficult.
it's gonna be a burden. So let's cross our fingers and hope it's not too bad. All right, so this is one thing, and I say this, when you're an immigrant who is an overstay on a visa, you're considered a fugitive. They're coming. They're probably coming
That's
for you.
it.
Although, but if you're not criminal, maybe you're not a priority. But who can tell? I mean, who can say?
They're going to be looking. It's like they will target samples. They'll target samples. So, for example, um, when people were
Yeah.
avoiding the draft during the Vietnam War, right?
Mhm.
They couldn't investigate all people, all male students who were 18 years of age and therefore qualified for the draft, right? They couldn't just go ahead and do a summary attack by saying you all got to report and we got to determine whether or not you're legally. You're supposed to report, right?
Yeah.
But in order to test that, they could pick out individuals, right, that hadn't reported and then processed them, and some of them went to prison because they refused to participate, and they even refused conscientious objector status,
Mhm.
because you're still contributing to the war. You'd just be wearing civvies, but you'd still be contributing to the war. So they denied that as well. A
Yeah.
great example of that, a guy.
Say it again. You cut out.
A
Say
great
it.
example of the war and not wanting to do CO, right? Conscientious objector, Muhammad Ali. He wasn't a student at the
Oh yeah.
time, but a lot of students also refused and they went to jail. They went
All
to
right.
prison for 2 years, federal prison.
And and we remember Muhammad Ali had a birthday last week, and it's so much news. Usually, I stop and honor Muhammad Ali's birthday in January, but had no time. Had no time. There's so much news going on. Trump did this
Too much
yesterday.
going on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Trump did
especially
this.
with
Yeah,
this thing.
well, I every year usually their favorite people you want to honor and remember. Muhammad Ali is one of them. On a slow news cycle, he gets some mention, but now there's just so much news. Like I said, it's the political wildfire season. Uh,
Yeah, no such thing right now.
yeah, what Trump did yesterday though is he like dangled this idea that the J6, the quote unquote hostages, the insurrectionists, that he would pardon them.
Oh yeah,
He talked
right.
about it. We knew it was coming, and then when it happened late, it happened late, and he had a stay. It happened after when he went back to the Oval Office, and he had that stack of executive orders he was signing. I mean, people were saying, "Hey, he said he was going to do it. He did it." Yeah, but he's a liar. We wanted him to lie
Yep.
about this. We
So you want
wanted
these
him
people
to
back in
lie.
your neighborhood? There's a
Well,
greater
yeah,
likelihood. There's a greater likelihood that these people, if they are freed, if they're freed and are put out, you know, there's a greater likelihood they'll show up in your neighborhood than in my neighborhood. I
Yeah,
live right in
well,
San Francisco. The likelihood that you got members of the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers here is a lot lower than it is in Marin County, in San Mateo County, in East Bay, and especially in the northern counties. There's a lot of people in the northern counties around military bases.
oh yeah,
Travis Air Base, you know, and
Travis. And then and you talk
Beale.
about the extreme, and you want to talk about the extreme north, like around where the conservative
Reading,
hotspots are.
yeah, Reading,
North
Red
of
Bluff,
yeah.
yeah.
And I'm just saying that this is almost like the green light, and we're talking about, on the one hand, they want to go after criminal immigrants, the criminal immigrants, or the and the criminal immigrants aren't the kind of violent immigrants, although they should go after violent immigrants, but they're probably just going to go after people who are overstays or count as criminal immigrants
What's a criminal?
versus
Yeah, what's a criminal?
versus the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers and the 1600 that have been released. They're getting out. Some were serving hard time for sedition and for acts of violence toward police. They're out free, and
Yeah.
it's
their main man was supposed to be in for 22 years.
yeah, Enrique Terrio, Stuart Rhodes, Oath Keepers. I mean, Proud Boys, Terrio. Their sentences are commuted. The difference being that the charge is still
Their
there,
conviction
but
stands.
but they're free.
Right.
But
That's
they're
right.
free, and they can be, their case can be looked at, and they may get pardons later. The guys that get pardons, they're just home free. They get out. And the guys who are dismissed, they don't even get, that's it. There's no record. They're dismissed. So this is
it's like it never happened. It's like it never happened. They never did a damn thing that was bad.
So
okay, that's a society. I hate it, and I really, really do hate this. I hate it when when people go on TV, on the radio, and they write stuff, and it says, we're better than this. We're better than this. This is not us. Wow, is that stupid or what? That is completely inane. If you keep walking around with that attitude, I hope you don't get hit, because you're asking for it. You do not have a defense in your head, and you need that. You need that to be safe.
Dan, are you saying we aren't better than this? Well, we have to understand we're not better than this. And we have to deal with it.
Half of the voters of America, right? Half of the voters of America, okay, a plurality, right?
Yeah.
Voted in favor of this. And a lot of them don't even like the guy, but they thought it was a better choice than the other side. Okay. So we're not better than this. We are not better than this.
But it's also, like you were saying, when we take a violent criminal and say, we're going to erase everything, there's no charges, you're free, we're encouraging more violence, aren't we?
Well, did you see the reaction? He got applause.
Yeah.
He got strong applause for that. He got strong applause for the raids, right? Promising the raids. He got strong applause for pardoning, right? They got strong applause for all kinds of stuff. I mean, how about, planting the American flag of Mars,
Going to Mars, that's I think where they want to put the undocumented immigrants. They want to send them to Mars. Because it's a long trip. It's a long trip.
The most paranoid people, I think, among us, the brown folk, the black folk, the Asians, is wait a minute. If they are working on this, reducing birthright citizenship, what's the possibility they'll eliminate it? And what's the possibility that they could do ex post facto application to us, people who are like first generation, American? Well, we're called second generation, right? Well, we're the first group to be birthright citizens, right? So here we're second generation people, first group. Are they going to do that? Are they going to take that away? Well, both of my parents were legal,
Yeah. Well,
how do I prove that? How do I prove that?
Might as well. But look, they wouldn't. They wouldn't do that. Would I mean? Does the law allow them to do that? To go back
Look at. There's some
retroactive?
people who are going to want to try to do that. There are some idiots that will try that, but there is again in the Constitution no ex post facto law. It's provided for in the Constitution. You can't make something a law today and say we're going to make this thing effective from 5 years back. You can't do it.
All right. But how about this? How about you have an undocumented immigrant has a baby here. She's undocumented. The kid is like 5. The kid is not a citizen by the law, but if they reverse the law, the kid's not a citizen.
No, if this executive order is given essentially constitutional validity, right?
Yeah.
Then they'll try to enforce it. But what the kid has to do and what the parent has to do is get a lawyer. And so we're right back where we said earlier that it's a burden on all of the people who shouldn't be treated this way because they've not done anything wrong other than being undocumented.
Right? Yeah. And the last time I checked, a lawyer costs more than the price of eggs.
Think of the people that are concerned with the price of eggs, are people who are just making shit up. Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm telling you that's why they voted for the guy.
That's what they voted for. They voted for. But what's causing the price of eggs to rise like that is a thing called the avian flu. Okay.
Yeah.
The extermination of thousands of chickens. Right.
Yeah.
The extermination
but
of thousands of chickens at a time. Right here in Petaluma, that was going on. That's going to drive prices up. But these people want to say that's about Biden and Harris. That's gross, deleterious execution, gross execution of their obligation to take care of the American people. That's what they're going to say.
Because those were entitled liberal eggs. They won. And they came with a price.
I'm hearing that from students on TikTok.
Yeah. Well, TikTok. Oh, there it is. Hey, now this was my theory.
They're interfering with our First Amendment rights.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Trump also had the executive order saying we're not the First Amendment. We're going to protect the First Amendment. He didn't have to do that. We got the First Amendment. He didn't have to protect it. We're going to protect it only when it helps us.
Yeah, only if it's on Fox News, News, Newsmax, and OAN. If it's on there, and if Alex Jones says it, they're reviving Alex Jones.
Of course they are.
He's gone, man. Because he's got no money.
You can't kill him. You can't kill that shit. Well, here's the thing. I heard someone tell me that a major news organization shifting people because they had certain reporters who were critical of Donald Trump, so they can't do Donald Trump stories. They have to. I mean, this is happening. Major news organizations, and I'm not just talking about. We're going to see if the New York Times is going to be as ballsy as they want. The Wall Street Journal should be, but I don't know. The Washington Post is already, Jeff Bezos, all the oligarchs were there. So, that's going to have an impact. I mean, I just, when you looked at that inaugural yesterday and you saw I've written about the oligarchs. The oligarchy is for real. And those guys, 7 trillion, I think was one estimate.
I'm going to contest the use.
Yeah.
Sure.
One of the pictures.
Last week I contested.
You contested.
Last week I contested your use as an element of oligarchy. Yeah. It is not an element of oligarchy.
Yeah.
Oligarchy simply says there's a concentration power of government. That's what it means. Okay. It also has a secondary definition, which is it's a small group of people that are up to really bad business, right? Corruption. Okay, that's also applicable.
Okay, so
where if you add wealth, you're talking about a kleptocracy. That's an oligarchy, but among wealthy people, right? Exclusive.
Oh, wait, but
that's a kleptocracy.
But a kleptocracy is assumes some kind of nefarious kleptocracy has to do with either some kind of grift, some kind of something,
Oh,
something
oh,
untoward.
oh, but that's not
It's
happening. That's not.
no, because the wealthy are just doing what's good for business. That's not.
It's
That's
Emil
not.
Guillermo's position. Kind of grift is not happening.
They're just doing something for business. They're not. You know.
So the
Stealing
New
like
York
for the
conviction.
national
So
treasury.
the New York conviction is the New York conviction of 34 felonies doesn't mean doo doo, right? That's what. And
No,
all of the other cases that
I
are coming
think
up.
the 34.
Remember, there
No,
are
look,
tens.
no, the
There are
34.
dozens.
Hey, no, the
There are
34
dozens
felonies
of
are
cases,
everything.
civil
The 34
cases.
felonies mean
There are
something.
dozens of civil cases
Hey,
that are
no,
coming
wait a
up
minute.
against Trump now.
Wait, the 34 felonies are everything. I call him the convicted felon. I call him the felon in chief. I just think that I just think that it's one thing. Look, Tim Cook, not a member of the kleptocracy yet. He's a member of the oligarchy for sure.
How do you know that?
Soon,
How do you know he hasn't done anything illegal in his past?
I don't.
You know?
Well, they haven't. They haven't convicted him. They haven't arrested him. Sundar Pichai of Google, not a member of the kleptocracy yet, but a wealthy person. I'm saying wealthy, the concentration of wealth. That's an oligarch to me. To go to kleptocracy and say these are the rich, you know, to add kleptocracy is like thieving from the national treasury. You can't make that case yet. You can't make that, but I very vehemently talk about.
So,
I very
so the
vehemently talk about
monopolization. So
Donald Trump.
so the monopolization of information acquisition via the internet, right? Is that monopolization nowhere near kleptocracy? Nowhere near stripping the people of their of their advantage, and they're not victimized by an algorithm at all, right? That's what you're telling me.
Well, no, what I'm saying, it's not an official kleptocracy because no one shut them down. Well, the Biden tried, and he didn't. I mean, there's still cases.
That kind of thing.
Well, look, I'm not going to call it a monopoly. Practically speaking, they may be a monopoly, but they continue to operate, and monopolies are supposed to be illegal. They haven't been able to shut them down. Now they have the clip. I will say this about Trump. Trump is the kleptocrat in chief.
They got a Supreme Court. They have a Supreme Court that okayed all of this stuff. They have a Supreme Court that did Citizens United, dude. They made it legal
they made
to operate as a kleptocracy. All you got to do is have the money, and you can buy elections. Okay, they did it. They made it illegal.
That has to do with.
I mean, I'm sorry,
they made it legal. But look, that has to do with campaign finance, but not. I mean, look, you can't. Look, is Google a monopoly? Practically speaking, you can say yes. Did the Justice Department try to go after them? Yes. But have they been successful in stopping? I think that case is still ongoing. I'm not going to call them a monopoly, although for practical purposes, they probably are.
Legally, they're not a monopoly.
But
you just admitted that practically.
Well, I'm not the judge in this.
That's why they're being sued. They're being sued all over Europe.
All right, but not in the United States yet. And I'm just saying that they're allowed to do their thing, and Trump is certainly not going to get in their way, which is one of the reasons why they're right up there with Trump, giving him $1 million for this, because they want, whether or not they become kleptocrats is another thing. I just call them an oligarchy. Oligarchy is bad enough. Oligarchy to me. Well, I mean, look, you're the one who makes a distinction. Oh, no, it's not oligarchy if they're rich. No, I consider the oligarchs bad, but I don't have the goods to say, oh, look, here's a conviction. Here's where you need to stop. So,
most of the cases against Musk are civil cases, right?
Right.
But yeah.
You know, well,
Yeah.
since you mentioned Musk now, we must mention the salute
Oh,
because
it's a
that was the show.
it's an old gladiator salute.
Yeah, yeah,
He's just trying. He's a dork trying to be a muscle man. He's a dork
yeah.
that is trying to emulate masculinism at its height, right?
Yeah,
You
well,
know.
this is the problem. This is the problem when Elon Musk is the shadow president and he starts doing stuff like that, because that is a Hitlerian salute, and that was the showstopper for me. I mean, Donald Trump, if he just shut up after his first inaugural, the inaugural
Yeah.
address was okay. He stuck to the script. He hugged the black guy who's doing karaoke of Martin Luther King. That's great. But
And I was so
he
embarrassed by that. I was really embarrassed by that.
well, he did not stop. He did not stop. He went to the other part of the Capitol and talked to the VIPs who weren't VIP enough to be there live. And then he undid the inaugural
They
address,
were the
and then
overflow room. They were the overflow room.
right, and then we realize that what we're dealing with really is the uh, we're dealing with the rolling inaugural Trump rally of Donald Trump, and it just kept going everywhere he spoke, because everywhere he spoke, we need the media is so alarmed that he is speaking what he's speaking, and the only place where he was given a free pass was when he went back to sign those executive orders,
Yeah.
the J6 pardons,
In the
because
ovular room. The ovular room.
because one of the things, I mean, Lawrence O'Donnell likes to point this out. The White House media beat the heck out of Joe Biden. They spoke out of turn. They were unruly. They shouted at the Oval Office yesterday. Everyone was calm and sedated. Even the worst guy at Fox was just like answering asking very civil questions and pointing out things, and it was like this is the bended knee press. That was the bend. Meanwhile, for Biden, everyone was out to get him. Everyone was out to expose every slip. I mean, I have to admit that when you see how the press treated Joe Biden, and then how the press treated Trump yesterday, my God, it's like they were out to get Biden,
Yeah.
and
They're not just beseeching. They're not just beseeching on bended knee. They brought
yeah,
soy gel,
yeah.
and they are osculating. They are in
Well,
osculatory
here's the thing.
operation at this point.
My information is that if you have said anything, if you're in the media and have said anything critical of Donald Trump, forget it. You will not be, you won't be invited. You won't be invited to the party. So anyway, that's I think that's a problem, and I think, but like,
That's fine, and the American public deserves that. Okay, when they selectively choose from a menu of available sources, right, and they go to the source, that is a form of political, and that's exactly what the people
but
are doing.
political what?
Okay,
You
stroke
you your word dropped out. It's a form of political.
masturbation. No.
Oh, political masturbation. Oh, I see. Okay, yeah. Well, clearly, if we're in a 50-50 world, and I think essentially we are, because half the people like Trump and half the people don't. The people who liked him were cheering on yesterday, and the people yesterday at home watching it on television were throwing things at their big screen TV. And
Yeah.
I think
Well,
I think
I
that
I
was
showed a chart. I showed a chart in my class of the way that voting patterns have gone since 1976. And one of the glaring elements of the chart was that between 1976 and 2020, right?
Mhm.
Between 1976 and 2020, uh, less than 50% of the electorate actually voted. At times, it was as
Oh,
high as 49% not voting.
yeah, yeah,
Not
yeah.
voting. The
People
lowest was
don't vote.
42% not voting.
Yeah. So with the high was,
Well,
I've always thought the high was
what does
about
that tell you
30.
about? What does that tell you about democracy?
Yeah, I always thought,
And
well, it's never quite all the people, but there's like some people will just say, "Hey, I'm doing it remote. I'm doing democracy remote," and
yeah,
I'm
well,
going
and
to,
here we are.
yeah,
And here we are.
so, yeah, and here this is why, and now we're talking about the threat of democracy, and this is why that straight arm gesture by Musk.
But
Uh,
your cousin Elon.
yeah, he's not my cousin. He's not my cousin. He
That's not what I
says,
heard. I heard that's not what I
yeah,
heard. I was in the bathroom at one of my favorite bars, and it said there,
he's
Emil
not.
and
You know,
Elon, like Emil and
so
Elon,
he,
like that.
yeah, but no, but Elon said the "everyone is Hitler" attack is so tired. He wrote, and he was saying the white flame will rise again. A chapter of the white nationalist group White Lives Matter posted on Telegram. Maybe woke really is dead. A white nationalist posted on X. So a lot of white nationalists look at this and say, yeah,
Y'all
they
know.
were. They said, did Elon just Heil Hitler? We are so back, said one right wing commentator. And then the Anti Defamation League called it an
They said,
awkward
no,
gesture.
yeah.
They tried to kind of apologize for him, urged caution in jumping to conclusions. Other extremism monitors and experts point out it was unclear what Musk was trying to convey to the. So everyone is kind of, bowing somewhat to Trump and to Musk. But here's another thing come up. Did you see? I saw on TikTok. I didn't see Snoop on video, except someone had a video of Snoop Dogg, and he's very proudly doing his thing. A lot of people in the black community are upset. You got Snoop. You got. Did you see Dave Chappelle on Saturday Night Live? He said, "Look, Mr. President." He was talking to Trump. He's Mr. President elect. People can vote for you or don't vote for you, but we're all rooting for you because you're our president. Don't be petty. I mean, what do you think? There's
Yeah,
this
I saw
Trump,
it. I saw it.
there's this Trump creep that's happening to honor him or to at least give him a chance. Do we give him a chance, or we saw what he did yesterday with the J6 and with the 14th Amendment? Well, what do you think? Should
Well, you're asking the wrong guy, man. I was one of these people, who knew how to do the fist,
yeah.
you know, almost
Mm.
60 years ago. So it's not that I haven't evolved and that I've had to accept a lot of tactics and strategies that I would not have done myself
Mhm.
back then, but this has gone too far. This is not resistance. It's not even resistance, okay? And we need more than resistance. We need actual, loyal, active opposition, okay? That's what has to happen. And the Democratic Party has not practiced that in 60
Well,
years. The last time that they did that was during the Nixon administration, right? And it was the Republicans who got Nixon to
yeah.
step out. It was not the
Yeah,
Democrats.
I'm just looking back. I remember when Clinton got in, and a lot of people didn't like Clinton because they called him a blue dog, right? He was a blue dog, or
A
blue
blue
dog
dog
Democrat,
Democrat, yeah,
Southern boy,
Southern boy.
and there was
This
a
is a
real
Southern boy,
split between the liberals and progressives and the blue dogs, the more moderates. But
right?
when Clinton won, it was like, oh my God, the the drought had ended for Democrats, and everyone was excited back then. And then since Clinton, there
Yeah,
was Obama, And it's really been unclear because the Democrats haven't been able to build on
Yeah,
anything. And
yeah.
Obama led to
Well, because they gave up the burbs, they gave up the suburbs, they gave up the rural areas. They have little or no contact there in real terms, it's really obvious on the West Coast, and particularly in San Francisco, that
yeah,
they're urban
yeah. And
located, and they got to.
well,
It's really
they
stupid. I mean, the way that Democrats have been running their
yeah,
campaigns, there are some people, right? A couple in Southern California, but because they know that they're running in an area that has got a lot of pockets of red, solid red, right? Like
yeah,
even San Diego County's got pockets of red because they got a naval base. Okay, so those people know how you have to be in contact, even with the people who traditionally vote Republican, and particularly with the independents or nonpartisan people, right? Who can swing either way. They've learned how to do that. But in places like San Francisco and the Bay Area, the 9 Bay Area counties, they don't do that well. Okay, and the East Bay, where you live, right?
yeah,
You're a
yeah.
little south of the East Bay proper,
Extreme. I live in the extreme. I live in East San Francisco.
right?
The extreme, the extreme East Bay.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
there is no East
I
San
you know,
Francisco.
anyway, the point is that we have to know how to talk to people, and you have to meet them on the ground. You were
What
right earlier. I was making fun of it, but eggs matter.
eggs matter?
Eggs
Well, not
obviously
only
matter.
yeah. Well, because that's what that's the expansion of the pocketbook idea of what people vote for. But what in one of my columns on Inquirer.net, and people can find my columns there on Inquirer.net or go to Substack.com. I talked about
I like
how
Substack.
to
You're in a good
yeah.
neighborhood.
I'm on Substack.com. Emil Amok. I I I said in my column how to appeal to Trump or how to work with Trump without kneeling. Um, I thought the one thing, and I thought I used TikTok as an example because Donald Trump flipped on TikTok. He said, "Oh, national security. National security is still an issue. I think it's more of an issue, but Donald Trump likes the fact that 170 million people like TikTok, and he wants them in his pocket, right? And if he is the savior, that's a win for Trump. So that's why he flip flopped on TikTok. And if you use that as a model, the reason or the
You broke
way
up. I couldn't do that.
that people, the reason or the way that that people can deal with Trump, battle him essentially, find common ground, find that place where his vanity equals your interests. I don't know where that is, but if you find that place, you know, and usually on issues that aren't very obvious, it's that the majority of people believe in your position, and that is enough to lure Trump. Look at TikTok. They got him to switch. TikTok also. I heard a report. Someone said that someone gave money to Donald Trump, and that caused a flip flop on TikTok for Trump. So I'm not saying people have to give money, but if people can talk, if activists against Trump or against Trump on one issue go to the people will lead Trump. Will lead Trump to your position. That use the TikTok model, appeal to his vanity. That's what all his opponents. That's what all his the all the people on the global stage, Putin, Xi, that's what they do. And that's my formula for trying to deal with Trump without kneeling.
Yeah, the problem is he's so fickle. I was
Well,
looking for the
that
word and I had to
that's
go. He could change
yeah.
in a couple of minutes. That's the problem. He's not
Well,
not
that's
consistent.
look at this thing. And as I say this, and we talked about the J6, uh, J6 pardoning criminals who have been accused of violent crimes, not very popular. I mean, people are even talking about sorting them out, the violent from the nonviolent, because there are some who are nonviolent, but Trump didn't do that. So I guess he's willing to stand up to the people, and that doesn't really take a whole lot of bravery. But TikTok, like I said, if you can control a popular voice, a popular, a sense that, hey, Donald Trump, if you don't get on this bandwagon, you're missing out. I think that's how you deal with Trump without kneeling. That's how I see it. That's how I see it. Anyway, Dan. So, are we going to see another, Sig Musk?
I don't think he's going to do that again. But he's crazy enough to make some kind of mistake like that again. But what really disturbed me was the ADL's response, right? That, well, we're not so sure. We're
ADL,
not so sure. Look,
everyone
the guy is from South Africa.
Yeah. Right.
And one of the reasons he left South Africa is because he didn't, like the fact that now, white people were in a politically, minority.
Yeah. What? Oh, Dan. Well,
here he is.
Dan. All right. So look, I promised we keep this short today. So I appreciate you coming on to talk about this, and we'll come back and talk about it on Friday too. Other things. Tulsi Gabbard, did you see her? I didn't think she was there, but I saw a shot of her, and
yeah, she's there.
I think they didn't mention her that much on a couple of occasions. They mentioned everyone else, and she wasn't like front and center. But I think she may not make it. She may not be confirmed. I think Cash. I think they're. I think Cash Patel.
What do you think about Cash?
I don't like him, but I think people. I mean, he's bullish and confident about his survival, so maybe he does survive. I mean, I think Pete Hegseth is. I think he's going to survive, and I think Donald Trump signed he said America is pro meritocracy and anti DEI, and what do we get? We get the two of the most unqualified people, nominated by Donald Trump, and that is a sad thing. Yep. All right, yep. Dan, I think the Golden State Warriors are done.
But it's going to happen. It's going to happen, and it's up to the Republican Party to deal with all that. But the question is, are the Democrats going to actively block any of this stuff? Are they going to try and mirror what Mitch McConnell did, all throughout the last 6 years of the Obama administration and all throughout the Biden administration? Are they going to do what he did, which is block stuff? And now, the latter thing that you said with people doing a creeping pro-Trump thing, okay, they're not really being pro-Trump, but they're saying we got to give them a chance. We got to give them an opportunity. We got to give them a chance. To the comics, the comedians' credit, right?
Yeah,
they were mostly critical. They have been mostly critical, and to say, well, be better next time. Let's all be better this next time. That was okay for me. That was okay. It was passable. But I think he knows damn well that you give him a line, you give him enough space, and these people are going to screw up. They're already starting to screw up now. There's no way that they're going to be able to enforce most of what they're going to say. Let's see how the initial raids go and what happens to people.
Well, Donald Trump, based on yesterday, is not being better. Not being better.
Oh, hey, man, I got my favorite lawyers on speed dial. I have my favorite lawyers on speed dial.
Being more chaotic. Okay. All right. There he goes. Our friend, Daniel Phil Gonzalez, College of Ethnic Studies, Asian American Studies, San Francisco State University. Hasta luego, vaqueros.
Hasta luego. Hasta luego y buena suerte. Buena suerte.
Yes. That's right. He's not Mexican. He's Filipino. He's Filipino.
That's right.
Yo no sé.
No habla
He doesn't
inglés.
need
No
he
hablo
doesn't need a
inglés.
green card. He doesn't need a green card. He doesn't have a green shirt like San Guillermo. I have a green shirt from San Guillermo. No. So
Okay, cool. That's cool.
all right, there he goes, Daniel Phil Gonzalez, helping me usher in the 47th president's administration. 47. I wanted to come on yesterday. I did. I wanted to catch everything. I didn't have, so I didn't go on yesterday. And I wrote my columns. So read my columns on the Inquirer.net, also on Substack, and I'll try to go to Patreon. You guys aren't biting on Patreon, so I don't know, but I'm on patreon.com/Emil Amok, substack.com/@Emil Amok. Emil Amok's Takeout, What Does a Nation American Think? WDAAAT. Hey, I'm going to be in New York City. The Shine Challenge is the name of a play. I know it's weird. Shine? What is this Shine Challenge, Emil? Well, I did something online. I act. When I act, I'm selective about the roles I take. I only play white guys in black theater. That's what I do. That's my gift. And I'm playing a white racist in a play on a trial drama, a courtroom drama called The Shine Challenge, written by the incomparable Ishmael Reed, Oakland's Ishmael Reed. Regular watchers of this program know that I did a video version of that show a year ago. Now they said, hey, let's do it live. They're taking it to New York at the Theater for the New City. So go to the website, theaterforthenewcity.com. If you go to, if you're watching me, there it is, at ci.ovationtix.com/35441-production-1223261. There it is. Just click that, take a picture of it, and then type it in and buy a ticket. Theater for the New City. It starts up January. Let's see, next a week from Thursday we go on. A week from Thursday, opening night. Should be fun, and I'm looking forward to it. New York is cold, so you want to do stuff indoors. Theater, of course, live theater, and you want to see Emil Amok. Like I said, I play a white racist. Typecasting, I don't know, but check it out. Theater for the New City, and if you're seeing the screen now, that's where you get it. The Shine Challenge. It's about the sinking of the Titanic, and they're blaming a black man. Oh my God. It's also an animal rights play. Believe it or not. Yeah, it is. It's an animal rights play. All right. That's it for me today. Let's swish out. Thank you for joining me. Back again tomorrow. We end with a little metta, loving kindness meditation. And so, as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Emil Guillermo here. Till next time. Mahal Kita.